Hello everyone, welcome to A Clear Perspective. I'm Serene. Recently, the Biden administration announced that it would start the booster vaccine on September 20th. The third dose triggered the resignation of the two head officials of the FDA's Office of Vaccine Review. There has been another incredible scene in the ongoing vote to recall the governor of California. As the leader of the Republican establishment, George W. Bush Jr. gave a keynote speech in Pennsylvania on Saturday, September 11th, commemorating the 20th anniversary of 9/11. He compared the Trump supporters of the January 6th incident to the terrorists of 20 years ago. Let's start with the resignation of two senior FDA officials. Marian Gruber, Director of the Office of Vaccine Research and Approval, and the Deputy Director Phil Krause. According to a report by Politico, both Gruber and Krause are frustrated that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC) has interfered too much with the FDA's approval process for vaccines. And they are disturbed by the Biden administration's recent announcement of a third shot for adults. More importantly, neither of them believes there is sufficient collected and analyzed data to demonstrate that the third booster shot is beneficial. In as early as mid-August, the Biden administration announced that the booster vaccine was expected to be given to vaccinated Americans starting September 20th, and that it was expected that most people would need a third shot 8 months after the second shot. Later, Biden said that a follow-up booster shot would be needed every 5 months. That is to say, Biden's White House was ahead of the FDA in announcing the schedule for the follow-up booster shot to the public. According to Politico's report, there are two forces behind the push for the third shot. One is the official appointed by Biden's White House to intervene in the FDA's approval of the third shot. Once the FDA approves it, it is foreseeable that the Biden administration will mandate further vaccinations for citizens until it starts pushing something like a health card or a vaccine passport in the future. In this process, the government power will continue to expand, and the freedom of citizens will continue to be taken away. The other force pushing for the vaccination are the drug companies. Israel has the highest level of vaccination in the world, but also one of the highest infection rates. The Daily Mail reported on September the 5th that Israel will begin preparing for a fourth dose of the vaccine. And on August 16th, Science magazine published an article on the Israel outbreak with a shocking headline. The main headline was, "A green warning from Israel, vaccination blunts, but does not defeat Delta." The subtitle was, "With early vaccination and outstanding data, country is the world's real-life COVID-19 lab." Israel has the highest level of vaccination in the world, with 78% of people aged 12 and older having received 2 injections, the vast majority of whom have received a Pfizer vaccine. Yet Israel has one of the highest infection rates in the world. In Israel, more than half of those infected had already received 2 shots, while about 60% of seriously ill patients had received 2 shots. This is a very clear warning sign for the rest of the world. Next, let's talk about California recall election. According to local Los Angeles website KTLA, on September 11th, some voters in San Fernando Valley said they went to a polling station at a local high school in person, where they were told that the computers showed them as already having voted, even though they had not. This happened to Estelle Bender, an 88-year-old local resident, And she was not the only one, as it happened to her friends and 2 other women who were there as well. A man next to her was also arguing over the same issue. Bender said she filled out a provisional ballot and left really angry. She added that, to her knowledge, many of those affected by this issue are self-identified Republicans. Los Angeles County claims to be handling the matter. Red State reports that this may be related to the discovery of 300 ballots in the car of a local drug addict. I've talked more about this in a previous video. The California record does not require voter ID and has a large-scale mail-in ballot system. We'll see what happens when the results are announced on Tuesday night. Democrats have been working hard this year to legalize mail-in ballots and no voter ID requirements. The Democrats' so-called For the People Act was blocked in the Senate in May and June by Republicans using the filibuster process. But the Democrats have not given up in the list. One of their top priorities this week, after the Senate's summer recess, is to pass the For the People Act. Rolling Stone reported on September 12 that Biden is ready to push for filibuster reform so that the bill can be passed without a Republican vote. This happened at a meeting in late July when Biden promised Schumer and Pelosi that he would get involved himself and lobby the handful of moderate Democrats to convince them to weaken the filibuster so that the For the People Act could pass without any Republican votes. There are currently 2 centrist Democratic senators, Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Senator Kristen Sinema of Arizona. They have publicly stated their opposition to changing or abolishing the filibuster. Biden and the Democrats need both of their votes in order to make any changes to the filibuster to pass the For the People Act. In April, Manchin said in an op-ed that he would not support weakening or eliminating the filibuster. He believes the filibuster to be a critical tool to protect the interests of small rural states like his own. Sinema pointed out that the Democratic Party often used the filibuster when they were in the minority during Trump's presidency. She argues that filibuster helps protect the country from the dramatic swings between opposing policy poles. If Biden were to put pressure on senators, they would clearly be Biden's targets. Once the For the People Act is passed, it will be easy for the top Democrats to use the election to replace Democratic lawmakers they consider disobedient, such as Manchin. The Democrats are aggressive and will not stop until they reach their goal. This situation is actually very dangerous for the Republican Party. But some Republicans don't seem to care, and they would rather attack Trump supporters instead. On Saturday, at a 9/11 memorial event in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, George W. Bush gave the keynote address and hinted that the Trump supporters who were part of the January 6 incident were new American terrorists. After Bush's speech, Biden quickly responded, saying Bush made a really good speech today, genuinely. Clinton also thanked Bush, tweeting, "Thank you, my friend, for your powerful and much-needed words on this difficult day." On Sunday, Fox News anchor Steve Hilton denounced George W. Bush for shamefully using the 9/11 anniversary to imply that Republicans and the people who put him in the Oval Office are like the 9/11 terrorists. Hilton went on to cite several things that Bush did, such as letting Osama bin Laden slip through his fingers in December 2001 because he was too busy dialing up plans for the invasion of Iraq. Hilton said that Bush took us to war in Iraq on a lie. We will never forget that George W. Bush caused the deaths of millions needlessly, that he destabilized the Middle East pointlessly, that he took trillions of dollars of your money corruptly and put it in the pockets of his cronies. Former President Trump was very busy on 9/11 this year. He delivered a video speech in the morning, followed by surprise visits to the New York City Police Department and the New York City Fire Department to pay tribute to first responders. At the end of his speech, Trump encouraged everyone, saying, quote, "We will struggle to recover from the embarrassment this incompetence has caused. Do not fear, however, America will be made great again." That's all for today. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time.